Welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. News, culture, sports, politics, and everything else from a theological perspective.
It's all summed up in love.
What should I do? Tell me. God is good. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give me peace. Give me peace.
Put that in your theological pipe and smoke it. Hey, welcome to another episode of Theological Pipe. Thank you for being here. It's really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, click the subscribe, like, comment button. If you're listening on Spotify or Google or Apple Podcast, just subscribe. Appreciate everyone listening. I'm going to get right into it. Today is day 2 of the Republican National Convention. The Democrats had their convention last week. And so far, in what I've watched and what I've seen, it's really not even close in terms of which convention is better in doing what they want to do. Now, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, and I'm not one of these persons that demonizes one side or the other. I think I've mentioned before that my politics is sort of divided depending on the issue, and you could listen to other podcasts about that. But in terms of production, in terms of the way it's coming across to regular people, I don't think there's any doubt that the Republicans have far outdone the Democrats. If you think back to the Democratic Convention, what do you remember it for? What do I remember it for? 2 things. I don't know why I held up 2 things. If you weren't watching on YouTube, I held up 3 fingers for some reason. There's 2 things that stood out to me on the Democratic Convention beyond the optics, but number 1 was at the end of day 1, they had that ridiculously odd, for what it's worth, song with the production values that looked like it was made in 1988 8th grade technology class or computer class. It was horrible, stop, hey, what's that sound? It was just weird, and I know they thought it was like spectacular, but it was just strange. And then I think it was day 2 or 3, you had that Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Elaine from Seinfeld, and I know she's another, she's in Veep and all that stuff, but you had Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Andrew Yang doing a comedy. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, I just did the air quotes. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or Google, comedy is in quotes. They did a comedy sketch where they were mispronouncing Mike Pence's name. And it was weird, and it was stupid, and it wasn't funny, and it just came across odd, especially with someone like Andrew Yang, who throughout the Democratic nominee process, he was one of the normal guys. I don't agree with his universal basic income. I don't agree with some of his other things, but he was relatable. He had some common sense to him. He seemed normal. And then they stick him with Julia Louis-Dreyfus doing a comedy routine that just fell completely flat. And it just was odd. So you juxtapose that, and then beyond that, every speaker was or not every, but the majority of speakers were politicians or Hollywood elite people, telling you that you're a bad person for voting for Trump and how he's bad. And I get it. I understand the argument about Trump being bad, and I'll get to that in a minute. But that was the Democratic Convention. The 2 things that stood out to me was that ridiculous comedy sketch and for what it's worth, the just ridiculous ending to day 1. The Republican National Convention, again, today is day 2. Day 1 was, I think the highlight most everyone would say is that Maximo Alvarez, the immigrant from Cuba who talked about coming over here and his love for America. And then today, they had Melania spoke, and that's fine, and they had some other people speaking, but they had an immigration ceremony for I think it was 5 people from foreign countries who were becoming American citizens. And so you can mention Herschel Walker. His speech was really good. Tim Scott gave a good speech. But again, the Democratic National Convention, politicians and Hollywood elites, weird songs, and weird comedy sketches. The Republican National Convention, yes, it had some Hollywood people, but it also had more everyday people telling their stories. Everyday people talking about things that that they appreciate about Donald Trump. And again, I'm not praising Donald Trump. I'll get to him in a minute. but it came across better. The production values were better. It looked better, and it really, to me, is appealing to just normal, everyday Americans. To me, the Democrats are trying to appeal to just the elites, and their intersectionality doesn't play well on TV and doesn't play well at all, really. And then you have the Republicans just trying to appeal to people and tell their story. That being said, if you were to ask me my opinion, I've stated before, I'm not a huge Trump guy. I don't think he's presidential. I understand why people voted for him. At least I think I do. I understand why people still stick up for him. But if you were to ask me, I would say Biden is probably a better guy than Trump. In terms of just likability. I do think that he's in some sort of mental decline. Old age is old age, and that's fine. I have no problem with old people being president. Knock yourself out. But I just think him not taking questions from the press, a lot of his interviews being scripted, a lot of his appearances, they're few and far between. And then when he does have them, you can tell that they've really been rehearsed and scripted. And then Trump will come out and take questions for an hour from the press and fight with them. And again, I think Trump's nuts too. But I just think in terms of just being a normal, everyday, likable guy, I think Biden wins. I don't think that's a question. But if you juxtapose the conventions and the agendas against each other, the Democrats and the Republicans, at least so far, and then you add in the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots that are happening in Kenosha, in Portland, they've been going on for 3 or 4 months now, in Chicago, in Atlanta, you can list the city. There's riots going on in these, and they're all Democrat-led cities, and the mayors and the governors of these cities are not doing anything. The media is telling you that they're mostly peaceful, and there's videos. I mean, you could look at the headlines from the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC. Peaceful protests. And then the picture is a building on fire. I mean, they're lighting things on fire. They're burning businesses to the ground. Just the past couple days, a shop owner, an old guy, a shop owner was defending his store, and they beat him up, knocked him out, and put him on the ground, and then justified it by saying, "Yeah, this is what we do." You had the guy that got kicked in the head in Portland. Put all this together, and this is just not good news for the Democrats, in my opinion. And until I see some adults, step up in Democratic cities and in Democrat circles and say, we denounce Black Lives Matter, we denounce Antifa, I think they're going to have a really hard time, winning votes from normal everyday people, from independents, from middle class people. They see this stuff going on, and they see nobody doing anything. Now, you can make an argument that Trump needs to step up, but just tonight in Wisconsin, they knew that they were going to have more unrest, and Trump offered to send the National Guard in to help, and the governor of Wisconsin said, "We don't want it." And if you can go right now, I'm taping this I'm recording this at 11:13 p.m. You can go right now and watch. There's things burning. There's confrontations going on right now, and it could have been stopped, quelled. I mean, send in the Marines, not the Marines. Send in the National Guard. I know you can't send in Marines, but send in a strong show of force. Get these people off the street. Put them in jail, prosecute them, put them in prison, and it would stop. I mean, Trump himself has said that all those governors and mayors have to do is ask him for help, and they can end it in an hour. And I don't know that it can in an hour, but I think it would end really quick. And so when you see the difference in the tones of the convention, you see the difference in who's speaking. Again, with the Democrats, you have elite Hollywood people kind of lecturing people on what to do. And with the Republican National Convention, so far, you have everyday Americans telling everyday stories. And then you juxtapose that against each other and then add in the riots. It just seems to me like the Democrats are just shooting themselves in the foot. Whoever's president in November, I'm going to pray for him. I'm going to hope for the best. As a believer, as someone who does theological pipe, maybe this could be my theological pipe moment. My allegiance is to the kingdom of God first. And again, I'm not saying don't be political. I'm not saying don't get involved. I'm not saying be a Republican or a Democrat. You need to, as a believer, if you're a believer, you need to square that with your beliefs and with your, if you're a Christian, you square it with the Bible. If you're a believer in you kind of square it with who's your God and what would he want you to do. But for me, after in November, whoever gets elected, I'm going to pray for him the same way I prayed for Trump, the same way I prayed for Obama and Bush and Clinton and Bush and Reagan. And that's probably as far back as I go because then I was 18 or whatever. But yeah, so far, I don't even think it's close. I think the Republican National Convention has been far and away better. And again, if you look at the ratings, I think somewhere I read today it was like 5 or 6 times as many people are watching the Republican National Convention than the Democratic National Convention. And they even did a look at how many people have liked and disliked like on YouTube, how you can like something or dislike it, or on social media, how you can say yes or no, like this is good, this is bad. Far and away, I think it was like 89% of people watching the Republican convention, again, 6 times as many people that watched the Democrat one are giving it a thumbs up or saying they like it. And when the Democrats did theirs, it was like 50-50 or 54-46 or something like that. It was like almost even. So the Democrats have their work cut out for them, and they've dug their own hole. And my fear for whoever's elected president is by allowing these riots, allowing these terrorist type groups, these mafia type groups to continue to allow them to do things. It's really hard to put the cork back in the bottle once it's out. You know, and I think I pray for whoever is president to be able to stop the unrest, to put the cork back in the bottle. But again, adults in these cities, in Portland, in Kenosha, in Chicago, in New York, in DC, in Atlanta, man, you guys have got to step up and do the right thing. It's okay for adults, for leaders to say no. You know, it's okay, declare a curfew, say you're off the streets at 10 o'clock, go start arresting people. Go start putting them in, don't let them back out. In Portland, what they do is they arrest people and they let them out 5 seconds later. Arrest them, prosecute them, put them in jail, put them in prison, make it hurt money-wise, and you'll get rid of those. I mean, you can quell these things. It's just nobody has the political will, and I don't even want to say political will. Nobody has the guts and the leadership and the strength to do it, and they need to. They need to do the right thing. And I think that if they don't, if they continue to allow this to happen, man, I pray that things get better. I think they're only going to get worse, but I pray things get better, and I pray cooler heads prevail. And I pray that people start realizing that, hey, this is not good. And I think what probably will happen, at least I hope this is not for either side to get better, but I have a feeling that the Democrats are going to start doing some polls after these conventions and realize, and I've read somewhere where when the Democrats got done with their convention, Trump actually got a boost in the polls. And I think after the Republican convention, if it continues to go as smooth as it's going now, he's going to get a bigger bump in the polls. People are going to start talking about what are the issues that are important to you. And I already know that safety and crime and all that stuff is moving up. And I have a feeling they're going to do internal polling and they're going to say, oh my gosh, we've got to get a lid on these riots. And again, I hope it's not too late when they do that. And I hope that they do and they quash them. Again, who cares who? I'm not advocating for either side to win right now. But I just think that, adults need to be adults and leaders need to be leaders. So that's my take on the Republicans and Democrats, the convention so far. Again, I don't think it's close. I think the Republicans are kicking the tail out of the Democrats so far, and I don't think it's close. And again, that's just my opinion. I know some people, if you're a Democrat, you probably think opposite, but I think you can watch and see that there's a difference. So yeah, again, my theological pipe moment is, who's ever president, I'm going to pray for him. I think, and again, as a believer, if you're a believer in a God that is all powerful and all knowing and is sovereign, whoever is elected, and you're going to pray for those people. So whether it's Biden or Trump, again, I think right now it's looking to me more and more like Trump. If you would have asked me a month ago, I'd have said Trump's not getting elected. I think as of right now, here's the thing. He can do something stupid tomorrow that will change things. And he has a habit of doing that. He has a habit of stepping on his own feet. But right now, it just doesn't seem like, it seems like all the momentum's going his way. And we're getting close enough now to the election. It's August, September, October, November. You're looking at, I think him winning again. So we'll see. And again, you can disagree with me on that. That's fine. But I just think the message of, America is the land of opportunity, the promise of America. plays way better than the doom and gloom that you see on the Democrat side or saw on the Democrat side. Want to switch gears real quick to sports. Again, on Theological Pipe, we cover everything, again, from a theological perspective. I don't know that this next part is going to be about a theological perspective on anything. But Oklahoma State University, go Pokes. There's a new series on ESPN. I think it's called Our Time, Oklahoma State. And it's kind of like a documentary. They're leading up to the beginning of the Big 12 season. And again, I'm still hopeful and praying that the Big 12 and the SEC and the ACC have football. I'm hoping that some of the pressure that people are putting on the Big 10 and the Pac-12 will come to fruition and they'll put football back on. But Oklahoma State is primed for a pretty decent season this year. They returned Chuba Hubbard, best running back in the nation. Tylan Wallace is one of the best receivers. I'll say he's the best receiver in the nation. Spencer Sanders, their quarterback, is really good. He was a freshman last year. He's now going to be a sophomore. He got hurt for a few games last year, but he's a really good quarterback and will probably be better. Their defense was okay-ish last year, and they return a lot of starters. So they're prime. They have a really good nucleus coming back. And so things are looking good for them. But still, as a guy that watches the Big 12 and is at least honest, Oklahoma State's little brother to OU's the big brother. And I think every year until someone proves me wrong, whether it's Bob Stoops or Lincoln Riley, if they're coaching a team, they're the favorite, and OU should be the prohibited. They should be the favorite. They should be a big favorite to win the Big 12 again. Maybe not as huge as other years because people think Texas is back. They're always back, and they're never back. But again, for Oklahoma State, I think it looks good, to challenge for the Big 12. But again, I think the game they play this year is going to be in Norman, but maybe there won't be a lot of a crowd, so maybe it won't be as intimidating for them. But it looks good for Oklahoma State. And so they've had two episodes so far. It's about 17 to 20 minutes for each episode. It's well done. It's short. It's sweet. The first episode was all about coming back to campus, the testing that the Cowboys had to go through, showed Mike Gundy. And then episode 2 was the one where they kind of discussed the T-shirt gate, where Mike Gundy wore the News Network shirt that people don't like or whatever. And Chuba and some of the players were like, this is unacceptable. And it was a big stink on social media, and the media played it up and stuff. I got to say, I'm a Gundy supporter. He's the best coach that Oklahoma State has had in their history. I think there are times where he could do things better, but I think every fan base says that about their coach. But so far, I think he's come off really, really well in both episodes, and especially the episode about the Black Lives Matter and the protests and COVID and how he's handling things. He had a speech before the T-shirt thing came out. Before all the controversy, he had a speech with his coaches, and he was talking about how we need to bring these guys together, and we need to be able to use their position to influence change. And he said, "Listen, words are great, but let's focus on actions." Man, he's talking about bringing races together, about trying to combat racism in his own team. And he said, what we're going to do? We're going to have, blacks and whites. We're going to have them sit together. We're going to have them, mingle because they segregate when they come in here. Let's do that. Let's talk to people. And he's saying this again before the T-shirt thing came out. So him saying that, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the T-shirt thing came out. And then when they were talking to Mike Gundy, when they were talking to Chuba Hubbard and Spencer Sanders, I thought all three of them came off really, really well. Chuba said, hey, him and Gundy had a talk for two hours, and he listened, and he seemed to be really, really happy with the way that went. Mike said the same thing, and then Spencer Sanders, who he said, I don't like to get into politics. I don't think he said politics. He goes, I don't like to get into these things, but as the quarterback, I have to, and things are going well. We're all focused, and they're all moving forward. So as an Oklahoma State fan, I'm happy because I was almost like, ooh, this is going to be cringy. They're really going to make it look bad. And I think, Mike Gundy, for all his weirdness, the dude has a pet turtle, which I thought was pretty cool. But it appeared that everything's good. They got over everything and they're moving forward. And I'm excited about the season. I think there was a really good scene at the end of episode 2 for Mike Gundy. He was helping his dad do some farming stuff, and that was pretty funny. There's some funny scenes. But Mike was sitting there kind of reflecting on everything, and he said, one of the things I heard from the players is they want to spend time. They want to have more access to me. They want to spend more time with me. And you could tell that he was like genuinely, I don't want to say hurt, but like we're reflecting on it. And he said, I think that's really cool. Number one, that they would want to spend time with me. This is a 50-year-old, he's a man. I think he's 50 now, 50 something. I'm a man, I'm 40. But the fact that he was like, yeah, they want to spend time with me. I need to make time to do that. And hopefully he does. Hopefully that situation, which it seems, at least according to what I watched, that maybe it was overblown by the media. Shocker. I'm not saying it wasn't important. I'm not saying it wasn't something that needed to be addressed, because it did. But as the media does, they jump on things and run with things. So, a good series, even if you're not an Oklahoma State fan, I love watching like Last Chance U, QB1, all the Hard Knocks, anything about the internal workings of football teams or sports teams for that matter. And it's a good one. Like I said, it's short, 15, 20-minute episodes. And again, I think Gundy comes across really well in it, and I think the players come across really well. So, if you haven't watched it, check it out. Again, football will start here in a few weeks. Hopefully they keep going. Continue to be nice. You're going to watch, you'll see, it was disappointing. When I say be nice, I'm thinking back now to, Melania Trump gives a speech today. And yes, there was, when Michelle Obama gave her speech, there were a bunch of right-wing people on Twitter just destroying her. Why? She's the first lady. What's the worst thing that she did? I know you may not like her. That's fine. And then Melania Trump gives her speech, and there's people destroying her. People making fun of her accent. Really, that's what we're going to do. So the Democrats are inclusionary and all about, tolerance. But then you have an actual immigrant giving a speech. She speaks 7 languages, I think, and they're making fun of her accent. And it just be nice, and as people who maybe follow politics or are involved in politics, maybe think twice before you tweet something. Think twice before you post something on Facebook, and think, just be nice, right? It's going to get worse. The division is going to get worse, and from either side, whoever thinks that they're losing, they're going to ratchet it up. Right, and I think right now you're seeing it from the Democrats a little bit with some of the attacks they're doing. They attack Herschel Walker, they call him an Uncle Tom. They attack Tim Scott, they call him an Uncle Tom. Why? Because a black guy that says he's conservative. I don't understand that. So it just, sorry, my watch just went off. Be nice, man. That's just silly. Then silly attacks, silly arguments against people. Just continue to be nice, continue to be friendly to people, and it can make a huge difference. I said something. If you are someone that can love someone despite their politics, you are better, in my opinion. I don't think it's an opinion. I think you are a better person than someone that hates somebody because of their politics. I'll say that again. If you can love somebody despite their politics, you're a better person than someone who hates somebody because of theirs. And maybe that's something you can put in your theological pipe and smoke it. Think about that. Remember, just be nice. Pray for our leaders, and pray for college football. Let's go, Pokes. Here's my little bell, let's see. Right, go Pokes. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
The only one in the backfield. Fields. Fade, corner. Rashawn Woods. Touchdown, Oklahoma State.